Very recently I did a video going over famous gunslingers cigarette cards in Red Dead Redemption 2 and promised that I would do videos on the other 11 cigarette card sets. In this video I'm going to go over where you can find all of the cards in another one of these cigarette card sets and fill you in on all the relevant lore details along the way. This functions as a small part of the tedious smoking and other hobbies stranger mission. So in this video we are going to be finding all of the prominent American cigarette cards. Just like the other sets, there are 12 of them in total, and I will put timestamps in the description so you can find specific cards if those are the ones that you are looking for and want to use this video as a guide. However, considering the game's been out for 3 years and there are plenty of guides already out there on these cigarette cards, I will treat delivering the lore information as equally important. And now that that has been acknowledged and you know what to expect, we can begin. The first cigarette card to find in the prominent American set is that of President Fisher, which can be located in the Jansen Mills building in Southfield Flats, Lemoyne. A building probably better known as the Big Red One just north of Rhodes. To be fair, that's the only name I think I've ever mentally cared to give it. Arguably a pretty memorable landmark in Lemoyne, though no plot nor side mission ever brings you here. If you head up the ramp into the accessible interior of the building, you should come across a barrel sat atop which is the cigarette card in question. Not much is known about President Fisher beyond the fact that in the Red Dead universe he served as President of the United States at some point prior to 1899. Considering his resemblance to real-life US President Martin Van Buren, who was in office between 1837 and 1841, that would likely be an accurate guess. However, any cool little bits of lore information beyond that are not known, though you can find a tiny low-res portrait to him in the Valentine Bank. Next we have the card for President Hardin, which can be located in Le Gras, in the Blue Water Marsh region of Lemoyne. On the porch of one of the houses facing the swamp, you will be able to find the card sat atop the barrier. Just like the last cigarette card character, this Santa Claus looking gentleman has little known about him in Red Dead lore, though it's known that he served as President of the United States prior to 1899. He also has a low-res portrait in the Valentine Savings Bank and is on the $10 bill. The next cigarette card is that of Lillian Powell, which can be found in the abandoned town of Pleasance, a place as derelict and miserable as her soul. To find this card, head up to the barn with the ominous words "Stay Out Plague" graffitied on the doors. On a crate to the right hand side when facing this, you will find the card. We know a fair bit about Lillian Powell, considering we can find her at regular intervals in the Saint Denis Saloon. Lillian is a socialite found in Saint Denis. She can be encountered during the Gilded Cage main story mission, and like I said, whilst exploring Saint Denis, you'll often find her sat on the couch in the downstairs of the Bastille Saloon, where she can be found barking demands for either alcohol or cocaine when she's not busy belittling everyone for everything. I suppose the only thing that doesn't change is that rightfully nobody listens to her. You can of course interact with her here several times, and it's fair to say that she doesn't make the best of impressions.
Ma'am?
What are you looking at, cowboy?
Well, I ain't too sure.
Well, that's a feeling I imagine you're just too familiar with, darling. Now shoo, please. I'm waiting for someone interesting to turn up.
Is God interesting enough for you, love? What? The alligators needed feeding. Come the epilogue, she's old and grey, and there are several encounters and conversations you can have with her, which I'm sure are probably worth their own video going in depth at some point. However, for now I believe we need to move on to the next cigarette card.
Lady, you are sour as anything.
Next up is the cigarette card for the oil tycoon Leviticus Cornwall, which can be located in Fort Wallace. Fort Wallace is only really accessible to the player between the main story mission The King's Son and the start of the mission Our Best Selves. I used a FreeCam mod to access it in the epilogue. The card can be found on a windowsill at the top of the southeastern tower. Now, Leviticus Cornwall is very much so a secondary antagonist of the main story. He He's an incredibly wealthy man who just so happens to be the business owner of many of the establishments that we rob with the Van der Linde gang. He's also a financial backer for the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and he's depicted as a selfish, arrogant, greedy man who does not care who he hurts provided it extends his power, wealth and resources, completely willing to resort to unethical schemes where it suits him, even undermining the federal government's authority provided it furthers his own objectives is not a problem to him. He chases expanding his own fortune with no regard to who gets hurt in the process because he believes himself to be untouchable. And what allows him to get away with it is that everyone else does too. Leviticus Cornwall is a textbook robber baron, and the resources he commands makes him a very dangerous adversary to the Van der Linde gang. And the game makes sure to show you his ruthlessness and the destruction he leaves in his wake, as well as making plenty of references to his clandestine tactics that he uses to enforce his de facto monopoly in the area and advance his interests besides. Cornwall sponsored Colonel Favors to drive the Wapiti Native Americans off of the reservation simply so he can drill the land for oil, and I believe he hired poachers to slaughter bison to anger the natives and provoke a reaction that would make his proposal to drill the land for oil more favourable to the United States government. See what I did there? Favourable. As seen in a hunting mission with Charles Smith, he'd use underhand, outright illegal tactics to drive off rival oil companies, however big or small. In 1899, Cornwall is murdered by Dutch Van der Linde, though that does not prevent nor undo the destruction set in motion by this businessman. Next, we need to head over to Rhodes to find the cigarette card for J.D. McKnight. This one's pretty simple to find as it's located on a table under a gazebo just east of the Rhodes Saloon. McKnight is a banker slash businessman who helped in the reconstruction of Saint-Denis following the end of the Civil War. Many buildings in the city are labelled with his name and his company's logo, even having a statue dedicated to him in the city, though many saw him as an opportunist taking advantage of the post-Civil War economic crisis. In the economic panic of 1893, McKnight, amongst others, sold 3.5 million ounces of gold to the US Treasury. In 1899, McKnight spoke in New York, warning of a financial panic that he expected to come in the next decade, a prophecy that became true in the Panic of 1907. But by 1907, McKnight's company would gain the ownership to the majority of enterprises that were previously run by Cornwall, extending as far as sugar plantations out in the Caribbean. Next, we have the cigarette card of Luther Covington, located in the southwest of Saint-Denis. To the right of the tracks, from heading east into the city from the southwest, you can come across a building with an alley in the middle of it that leads to the docks. Head down through here, and once you're on the docks, head to your right. Down at the end of this particular part of the pier, you will find the cigarette card sat atop a box. Besides from the cigarette card labelling him as a steel magnate, nothing else is known about Luther Covington. Henrietta Beatrice Wood's card is located north of Saint-Denis on the porch of a middle house in a row of 3. The house can be identified by its red paint, and the card can be found on what is basically a coffee table. Nothing is known about Henrietta Beatrice Woods besides from what it says on the card, and that is that she is a leading woman of letters. My best guess would be that that means she's either a poet or an author, maybe both and then more. The cigarette card for Harvey Griggs can be found back in the southwest of Saint-Denis. Where the tracks converge, there is a big freight hall, marked with the McKnight logo. Inside here you will find a workbench on which we will find the Harvey Griggs cigarette card. All that's known about Griggs is what it says on the card, and that is that he was a railroad speculator, meaning he likely purchased vast swathes of land in order to build transcontinental railway lines. The cigarette card for General Quincy Harris can be located at Cornwall Kerosene and Tar in the oil fields of the Heartlands, which can be found northwest of Emerald Ranch. To the northeast of the facility, the cigarette card can be located at the base of the oil well tower. A lot is known about General Quincy Harris, so buckle up. Quincy T. Harris was born on the 18th of June in 1826, and during the American Civil War he was a prominent Confederate leader. It is understood that troops under his command attacked Fort Brennan on the 8th of May in 1863, and in 1864 Harris participated in the Battle of Scarlet Meadows at Bulger Glade, where ghostly voices we can hear at the abandoned battlefield, amongst other sources, suggest that though Harris is hailed as a hero due to his participation and leadership during the battle, His actions were anything but heroic, with him fleeing from battle but ordering his men to stay. Despite the Confederates sustaining heavy casualties, they managed to repel the Union forces. This led to Harris becoming something of a controversial figure. There were even rumours that Harris was secretly working for the Union, and he died on the 9th of April 1888. In the city of Saint Denis, we can find an equestrian statue dedicated to Quincy Harris that has been vandalised with the word coward graffitied on the horse, and his crypt can be found in the Saint Denis cemetery. Harris's statue is symbolically facing north to face the Union States. However, from the information provided, we're led to believe that the general would rather face any direction but. For General Cornelius Palmer's card, we need to head to Hillhaven Ranch on Southfield Flats in Lemoyne, which is north of Rhodes. To the northwest of this location there is a shed in a pen, and it's on the table in this shed where we find the cigarette card. In Red Dead lore, Cornelius Palmer was a famous United States Army general during the Civil War, and nothing else is known about him because all the information we have is on this card. You know what? For prominent Americans, a lot of these Americans are not very prominent. It's believed his appearance is based on real-life Union General George McClellan. Next up, we have the cigarette card for Senator Thaddeus Waxman, which can be found at Lonnie's shack, which overlooks Pleasance. Once at this shack, head inside, and on the mantelpiece you should be able to find Thaddeus Waxman's card. It appears as if that has already been found on this particular save, so don't let the visuals deter you. Thaddeus Waxman is a politician and military officer who before 1899 served as the US Senator. Known for leading American troops to victory during the Battle of San Juan Hill in Guam. After President Alfred McAllister's assassination in 1899, Waxman succeeds him as President of the United States, using his new power to advocate for mass industrialization, leading to the construction of a massive battleship for the United States Navy. As President, Waxman became loved by the people he served. As a cool little detail, considering that Waxman is based on President Theodore Roosevelt, it is likely a reference to Robin Williams' portrayal of Theodore Roosevelt in the form of a wax mannequin in the 2006 movie Night at the Museum. The final card in this set to collect is that of President Alfred McAllister, which can be found at Crawdad Willie's in Lemoyne, which is southwest of Saint Denis. Once you enter this creepy looking shack, because what's the worst that could happen, if you immediately turn right, the cigarette card will be sitting on the windowsill. McAllister became president some point before 1897 when he approved the finalised demarcation lines for the states of Ambarino, New Austin, Lemoyne, West Elizabeth and New Hanover. During his presidency, McAllister called for a ban on trade with Mexico due to Mexican government's decision to place troops across the border to deny Americans entry to the country. He was later assassinated and his successor was Thaddeus Waxman. Now that we have all of the prominent American cigarette cards, all that's left to do is to shoot them off via mail to Mr. Ramsbottom. After doing this, you'll be prompted to wait a couple of days, after which you can come back and receive your reward. 3 eagle feathers. I mean, fair enough. And that brings us to the end of this video on the prominent American cigarette card set in Red Dead Redemption 2. I hope it was informative. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, maybe subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. That would be super fantastic. And of course, with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, take care and goodbye.